Welcome to the Pathways to Profitability podcast, personal tales of business success, where we hear local business owners' personal stories of their trials and tribulations that got them to where they are today. Here's your host, Cheryl Mucha, CEO of CFO Your Way.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am excited to have Nick Donato with us today from Donato Financial Group. Nick is second generation business owner, and I'm excited to talk about his story and the success of the business. Thank you, Nick, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good.
So we're just going to start with the family business. Your father started the business many years ago. You joined the business. Just tell us a little bit about the story, your father's story, and the transition and how you got involved in the business.
Sure. So my dad was started this business in 1973, right out of college. He was the first graduating class of Bergen Community College here in Bergen County, New Jersey. Put himself through school and happened to meet a gentleman by the name of Tom, who introduced him to the insurance business, and he decided to embark on a journey in 1973 of working with individuals, primarily selling life insurance for Metropolitan Life at the time. Did that for a number of years. Over the years, expanded the practice. At one time, serviced almost 4,000 households. Wow. Here, primarily in northern New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. Over the years, that's kind of changed. The business model changed through the 80s. He got more into mutual funds and started handling money management to some degree, always having insurance and protection being kind of the baseline. So fast forward, way on as a kid, I used to, drive around with my dad on Saturday and Sunday mornings and go on what was called the debit route, when you could still collect cash for life insurance policy payments. And, I would sit across the table and see a ton of different people that would really just take my dad in as family. And I had a ton of aunts and uncles, Aunt Virginia and so on. And they weren't really my aunts or uncles, but they were part of the family to some degree through my dad. And that was really cool to see.
So a true family business, right?
True family
clients
business.
are part of the family. That's
right. That's right. And that's something that we try to continue to carry through today. But, over the years, the business model changed. I went to college. I went to Bentley up in Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. I studied international business and finance, and I had the mindset of, going into finance to some degree, either in an analyst role or maybe financial services. But I never really saw myself, honestly, working for our family business and continuing it on. It kind of just happened by accident. I took an internship with MetLife while I was in college, and just on the technology and kind of back office side. And I started gaining some interest in that field. But I always admired how my dad helped people. And that's something that drew me to giving it a shot. So when I got out of college, I had a few job offers, and he said, hey, before you go down that road, why don't we give this a shot? We've got something really special here. It's unique. We've got great clients that appreciate us, and I think it's something that you might be good at. So I gave it a shot, and here we are 18 years later.
And how was that transition with your dad as you were coming into the business and learning from him, and then transitioning and eventually, running the business on your own?
Well, it was smoother than I would have ever imagined, and I attribute that to my dad really teaching me the old-fashioned way, letting me make mistakes, learning the business from the ground up, from filling out applications, making copies, and showing up at someone's house at 7 o'clock at night, and they answer the door in their bathrobe and forgot that I was coming, kind of thing. Learn to confirm your appointment. So he really taught me how to work the business from the ground up, using an analogy to construction. I once was told that if you want to learn how to be a good contractor, you have to learn how to sweep up the job site at the end of the day too, and kind of see what got done. So I learned the business that way. And I think that attributes to a lot of the success that we have today, because I understand all the workings and all the sides of the business, kind of, from the processing to the servicing and everything, because I was, forced to learn it that way. The other thing that I think is really interesting is, in a lot of family businesses, it's hard for the key business, the guy who started it, to kind of let go and
Right.
adapt to newer things. And, that was never my dad. He always kind of let me put my own spin on it and utilize my youth and ideas to try. And clearly they didn't all work, but he was always willing to try and adapt to change. And I think that was really probably the number one reason why we've had success in our expansion, because he was open to the change.
Yeah, the change is important because it'll help you get to that next step. So is there one change that you made that you find was like really impactful for the business?
I would say number one, hiring more staff was probably the biggest impact, to really allow us to do what we could do and expand and grow into different markets and help more people. That was one of the biggest changes. I'd say second to that, we started being more selective with which clients that we take on. My dad had a very very big problem. It was a good problem, but he never knew how to say no.
He had a big heart. That was his problem,
Yeah,
right?
his problem was he had a big heart, and he could never say no. And sometimes that took away time from being able to help the people that really needed us, if that makes sense.
Right. So I know you and I have had this discussion before, but I'm going to ask you now, is how do you define business success in Donato Financial?
Well, I translate my success to helping people. So the more people we can help, that's the level of, I would say that's my barometer for the measurement of success. However, with success, we have a motto here at Donato Financial Group, and that's helping our clients do what they want, when they want, wherever they want, and with whoever they want. And I kind of trickle that down to myself, being able to spend as much time with my family or friends as I want, kind of when I would like to do that, and work with who we want, et cetera. So that's really how I measure the success.
Great. And that's all about the family business, right? Are there any influencers or like notable people that you follow that you believe in their motto of business success, or appreciate what they define business success as?
I don't have one particular person. I have a strong record of hiring coaches, business coaches over the years. And that's something that I think is very important. And it's consistent across anyone who's successful in any career or any position. Any athletes have an ongoing coach. And I think oftentimes business owners don't think that they need to have a coach to hold them accountable. And I think that that's a really big mistake. So I think it's not necessarily a notable person, but maybe more of a principle that we always need to keep listening and learning and being critiqued to get better. Because if we're better and stronger and hone our craft, that translates through to our clients.
I couldn't agree more. We need those people to guide us and help us make decisions and just see clearly for the future. Great, thank you. What practices or systems do you use within your business to help you stay on track and help you grow and take the business to the next level?
I have a complete business tracking. Some years ago, I hired a business coach who taught me a system, and it was career changing. And the basis of the system in business is really to have like a cookbook, if you will, of the process of the business, and just defining a process first and foremost, which we never really had. Kind of going back, when I first got started. Now, I think having a defined process of meeting with clients, building that rapport, getting true insight of what they're looking to accomplish throughout a series of meetings, and following that process each and every time that we meet people really does two things. First and foremost, it gets us to a yes or no, as quickly as possible. And sometimes the no is just as gratifying as the yes. If there's not a fit for someone to work with us, that's fine. Let's just let's weed that out, both for their purposes and our purposes, over a series of a few meetings. So having that defined process is probably number one. And then number two, for our own back office processes, just tracking and doing our best We've adapted some technology just to, stay out and stay in contact with our clientele.
Great. And what would you say is the number one thing that sets Donato Financial apart from the other financial advisors that are out there in the marketplace?
Well, I'm sure there are some great financial advisors out in the marketplace, and I know a bunch of them. It's actually a great peer community.
Right.
But I have extreme passion. We have experience. We have expertise, but we've seen a lot. We're fully independent and objective, so we work with any insurance company, any investment house. But over the last 50 years, there's been a lot of different scenarios that have crossed our desks, and I think that's what really sets us apart, is that we've seen a lot, and that experience can help us, embark on helping our clients, or really regardless of what their scenario is. We've probably seen it. We've probably seen that type of insurance policy. We've probably worked with a business owner that had 3 or 4 partners with one estranged, that type of thing.
Right.
So we've seen a lot, and I think that's really what sets us apart.
Yeah, experience is priceless.
Yeah,
and
I think
just God.
I think there's one more aspect. I've traveled around the country, and I've met tons of people that wear the same hat that I do, and most, I must say, are in the same age bracket as my father was, which would be about 70 years old. And most of those conversations are around their grandkids and how they can't wait to retire, and how they're spend 6 months in Florida, et cetera. I'm 40 years old. I have 2 kids. I'm married, and I'm here. I'm in this seat for a while, and I think a differentiator is that I'm going to be here to continue the promises that we make with our clients. Whereas maybe some of my peer advisors, although they might be great at what they do, if they're in their 70s, they only have so much more runway to go while they can still kind of be in that seat.
Great point. So you touched a little bit about, your clients and what they do for fun, and they get to the point in their life where they want to have fun. So what do you do to keep that work-life balance? I know you work hard, you work long hours, but what's the other side of the coin that, the fun part of Nick?
The fun part of Nick. Well, like I said, I have 2 children. I have a boy and a girl. My daughter is 9 going on 19. And
aren't they all?
my son Nicholas, he's 6, and my wife Christina, we just try to find that balance and really be disciplined. I work hard and I play hard. We do a lot of traveling, usually 3 to 4 trips per year. We do get down to the Jersey Shore in the summer, and we play golf together on Sunday mornings. Hit the golf range and just kind of try to take advantage and experience and take every moment for what it is. I've seen a lot in my career, Cheryl, and that's, I think, allowed me to be a better advisor, a better father, a better husband, and a better friend. I've seen so much that I think I just have a great perspective on life and finding that balance where, we're here, I'm accessible, but I also know how to turn it off and just kind of be there for my family. So I think a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Right.
And I do. If it's
and
urgent,
it's so important because the kids are only 9 one time, and you need to be there for that and enjoy that. I always say, enjoy every moment of your children because it goes by so fast.
Yeah, for sure. I think that goes for any stage of life. I mean, for me personally, my children are obviously young, as we talked about, and it's true they're only young for a short period of time. But what I've experienced with some of my clients are actually some of the older people transitioning from work to retirement. Business owners that have worked and grinded for 25 or 30 years in their business, whether it be a restaurant or manufacturing company or whatever. It's hard for them to step away and actually start to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And I think that we do a really great job with that, of trying to utilize our experience and the coaching that I've gotten over the years to build out a schedule. Maybe 2 days you're working from 7 to 6 like you always did. 2 days you do a half a day, and then 1 day you just don't go in. So we utilize some of the things that I've learned to make our business more efficient. to translate to some of our clients. But it's a hard transition. It's hard to retire. It's hard for business owners who've worked and grinded to step away.
Built the business.
So they built the business. It's hard to step away and enjoy it. So that's something that we're often having that conversation with business owners. Being a family business ourselves, we understand that. That I've gone through transition, and again, it all gives us the clarity to help people because we're just real people. We're just like everybody else.
People helping people.
People helping people. That's right.
So important. So are there any events or initiatives that you'd like to share with our listeners? Anything going on that you would like them to know about?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'd like everyone to know that I'm willing to meet with anyone. Going back to the history of our business, again, back to that coffee table or kitchen table, I'm a face-to-face person. So, this past year has been very difficult for me personally and just emotionally to resort to technology like Zoom or conference calls to transact business and to be with clients. Our clients are our direct extension, and are oftentimes thought of as our family. And it's been hard not to see them. So I first and foremost want everyone to know I'm willing to get together and meet and talk, face to face. I think that's how the best relationships are built. And this computer, although it's a great tool, it's just a tool. It's not a means. I think we still need to be a little bit more face to face. So that's first and foremost. Number two, I find there's been so much reliability put into websites, and we have a website, donatofg.com. You can go on and get a better idea of what it is that we do. But speaking for myself, I don't necessarily dig through and read through someone's website 100% to learn what they do. I think there's a lot of strength in video, and I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of stories to tell. I don't have to make them up. I've got a lot to say. I love to share stories of things that we've kind of dealt with over the years, personally and in business, with different situations. So we have a series of videos that are going to be coming up, videos and interviews around topics that may or may not apply to the audience. And I think that's important because it'll be able to translate a little bit of a breadth of what we do and how we do it in the form of a video rather than on the website. So I'm excited about that. That's going to roll out over the next 3 to 6 months. So that I'm really looking forward to that.
And how will our listeners find those videos?
Well, we're going to post them up on the internet utilizing social media, which for me, it's primarily LinkedIn. I've always kind of shied away from the social media thing. It just really hasn't been my thing, but I'm getting there. So we have a LinkedIn and we do have a Facebook page. So we are going to try to get a little bit more of an outreach there. But candidly, 100% of our clients, come to us through an introduction, and that's something that it's a direct introduction, and that's something that we never really relied on any type of social media to bring in new opportunities. So I'm not really looking at the social media or these videos as a way to bring in new opportunities, although it may happen organically. Just more of an education. I think as an advisor, we have a responsibility to put good information out there for our audience to learn from. Whether or not you come into our office and work with us, at least it's something that maybe you could take and find value in.
Great. Looking forward to seeing them. So what do you do as an organization to pay your success forward? Is there a specific charity that you support, or volunteerism that you do either individually or as a firm?
Yeah, we do. We've always been very philanthropic. We support a number of charities locally and nationally. Some of the big ones. The Cancer Society is close to us. St. Jude is close to us, that we support each and every year. I just had this conversation actually yesterday with a client of mine. She's in a position, fortunately or unfortunately, she has significant amount of wealth, and she doesn't have any family to leave it to. She never had children and doesn't have any no siblings, so there's really no one to leave any of her money to. And we had a conversation around charity, and she said, I've been supporting these big charities for a number of years, and I just feel like I don't know where the money's going. And I said, well, I'm sure it's going where it's supposed to go. But why don't we focus on some more local charities? Because that's what I've done personally and as a firm, most recently over the last 10 years. And we support a few organizations that are in the special needs space. We work a lot with families who have children or family members with developmental disabilities. It's something that's near and dear to us and kind of a niche, if you will. We work a lot with special needs families, and we support the ARC of Bergen and Passaic counties here in Hackensack and Passaic County, and as well as the Developmental Disabilities Association of New Jersey, which is headquartered down in Woodbridge. And they provide services to citizens with developmental disabilities, workshops and work placement and things like this. And it's great, and it's an underserved community. So that's something that, and our dollars go a long way. Even a little bit helps quite a bit. So that's something that we've been doing, and I think it's important always to give back.
Absolutely.
But I also feel like when it comes to charity, Cheryl, it's oftentimes I see people kind of spread a little bit around to a lot of different places, and I don't know if that's the best answer. I think maybe if you hone in on one local charity and one or two and make a bigger significant impact, maybe it's better. I don't know. That's just
I think that's great advice, because I think people, they send their $25 check to many different organizations, and it doesn't have as much of an impact if you send the $250 to the same organization.
Yeah, and there's a financial impact, and
right.
It's a win-win, right? For businesses or individuals. If you give, you do get a little bit in return emotionally, which is great, but also there's a financial incentive. And I think oftentimes people don't realize that you can reduce some of your tax liability by making a good contribution.
Right. And it warms the heart as well. It's like you said, emotionally satisfying.
It is definitely.
So anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to let the audience know about?
I think the biggest thing is just communicating to the audience that we're accepting new clients. We'd love to build new relationships. Not trying to be everything to all people, but I think back to the question you asked me about business success, kind of doing what we want with whom we want and when we want to do it. I think our firm has reached a level of success that we don't necessarily need to take on every business relationship, but we really want to take on the right ones. And I think it's important just to kind of, I think, make that message that, we may not be a fit for you and you may not be a fit for us, but, let's have a conversation and just kind of itemize that and figure out if it makes sense. Right now, there's so much going on in our world. There's so much uncertainty out there. I think that, we're finally, I think, coming to the end of COVID here, which is fantastic. But I think individuals have never been more in touch with morbidity. Every time you turn on the news, you've got a death count and how many people are on ventilators. It's natural to get worried and maybe ask yourself the question, gee, what happens if something happened to me? Or are my ducks in a row? And, it's never been a better time just to have a conversation and get a second opinion. We touched a little bit, Cheryl, on our process and kind of how we have a defined process in place. I think it's just important to mention, I'm the type of person, I go to a hotel and I look at the back of the door and I want to see how to get out of there if I have to. So, I think when it comes to our business, I get the question often like, so what does it look like, Nick? Do I come in? Do I pay a fee for your time? And, are you going to want me to bring all my statements and kind of show you everything that I built in my life in the first 5 minutes that I meet you? And I think it's important to put everyone at ease. We have a process. The first meeting is called a discovery meeting. That's 20 minutes or so where we get together and just talk about what it is that you're looking to accomplish, as a person, as a business, as a family, whatever it may be. I don't want to know how much money you have, how much money you make, or anything like this. I just want to talk and see if your goals are aligned with kind of our firm beliefs, number one. Then we leave, we part ways, and we decide at the end of that meeting if it makes sense for us to continue talking. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. If we did think it made sense, we'd have another meeting. And that would be a meeting where I call it an insight meeting, where I would communicate back to you with what I heard, and to make sure, again, Did I hear everything? And did I miss anything? And should we talk about anything else further? If at the end of that insight meeting, it still makes sense for us to get together, then we talk one more time. And that's at the point where you'd bring some statements and I'd start to make some formal recommendations to follow. There's no financial commitment. There's no fee for the planning sessions. It's just strictly conversations. If you don't like my recommendations, we just shake hands and part friends. So I think it's important to know that we do work a little bit differently. I never walk into someone that I never met before, regardless of who introduced me to them, and tell them 100% of what I had going on in my life in the first 20 minutes that I meet them. So I'm a firm believer in we need to get together 3 or 4 times and talk and see if we're comfortable with one another. Right. And I think that's really important to communicate.
And in that process, you're building trust with one another as well, which is so important, because if it is a yes at the end of the day, you're dealing with their money, the most, the thing that is closest to so many people. And it's important to have that trust and that good relationship and be sure that you're on the same page.
Sure. And lastly, I think in closing, I think there's a big misconception out there that if you have a financial advisor, you have a financial advisor. It's important to note that some of my largest relationships have multiple advisors. Cheryl's heard me say it a million times, but the Yankees have more than one pitcher. Who's on your team? It's okay to have a team of advisors, have more than one person, have 2 or 3 advisors looking at your stuff. And what that does is if those advisors are working together and communicating, the outcome is a lot better for you, obviously, because you have 3 or 4 sets of eyes looking at your stuff rather than one. But I think there's an indirect accountability between advisors to say, hey, wait, we're going for a review. Let me make sure my ducks are in a row. I think it prevents a little bit of complacency. So I'm always okay to work with another advisor. In fact, a significant amount of our introductions come from other wealth management firms, some of the big ones that you would know the names, because there may or may not be an expertise, and vice versa. And I think that's just important to keep our client in the center of the relationship, but know when we don't do something that great, and to refer it out to another advisor is important. And that's something that we've done a great job with over the years. But for our clients, if you have a 20-year relationship with an advisor, I'm not trying to replace your relationship. I think it's just important to know maybe I'll be a sleeve for something else. So you don't have to break up in order to work with us.
Great to know, Nick, because I think so many people think it's a relationship with one and stick with that one relationship, throughout your life.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
There's only one. Are we done? Should we?
No, go ahead.
Cheryl, you're trying to shut me up. One last point. You had asked me earlier about a differentiator, and I gave you a blanket differentiator. But I think one of the biggest benefits of working with Donato Financial Group is the access to our network of professionals. Just like yourself, Cheryl, we go back. We have a great business relationship and personal relationship. I know that if I had a client who had a question around something that you might be able to help with, I could give you a call and you'd lend advice. And I think that it's so important because over the 50 years of working, we have tremendous relationships with individual underwriters at the insurance companies, direct relationship with the investment houses. We have attorneys, accountants. We have firms like yours that we can call and ask a question. So clients of ours get access to our network of expertise. And I think that's really valuable.
It's so invaluable. And I think the general public is appreciating that more and more, especially in these times.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nick, so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Cheryl.
There's Nick's website. Check it out. Reach out to Nick if you have questions or want to have a conversation. I know he will be more than happy to take time and talk with any of our listeners. So thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Cheryl. Have a good day.
You do the same. So be sure to subscribe and stay connected to get all the future episodes of Pathways to Profitability podcast. Be well and have a wonderful day.
That's it for today's episode of Pathways to Profitability. Remember to ask yourself, Where can I pay my success forward today?